Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to another live. We are doing building trusting teams. Hi, I'm your moderator for today, Bridget Brown Jackson, and I have with me a whole panel of experts in the field of leadership. And we're going to be talking to you today. We're going to be talking to you today about building trusting teams, but down with the caveat of fostering collaboration and innovation through trust. Trust is very, very vital. So, day one, we spent time talking about trust, and we spent time talking about how to unlock high performance through trust with real, true leadership. And so we spent some time yesterday talking about Patrick Lencioni. We talked a little bit about John Maxwell, and we pulled out some Covey wonderful points and tips. But today we're going to get into again collaboration, innovation through trust. I have a wonderful panel of experts. I'm going to start with Janice, then go to Martha, and last but definitely not least, our guy LDH. Go ahead, Janice, introduce yourself.
Hello, out there in social media land. I am Janice Allen Jackson. I am the owner and principal of Janice Allen Jackson and Associates. We provide management consulting services and executive search services to nonprofit organizations and local government organizations based upon my lifelong career and passion for local government organizations and making sure that people understand that there's a better way to get things done. So we're looking forward to this wonderful conversation about the fundamentals of getting anything done, and that is building trust with your people.
Yeah.
I love it. Martha.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning. I am Martha Davidson. I'm the founder of Empowering Minds Now. I serve high performing women in the leadership space and those that desire to be in the leadership space. I have been on STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and mathematical path for all of my career. So I had an opportunity to grow as a leader and understand the importance of women, especially women of color, leading with excellence. So that's my goal, is to help women lead with excellence and to be incomparable in their positions.
Love it. LDH.
Yeah, so my name is L. David Harris, and I just want to say right here that I trust Bridget, since we're talking about trust here. And I'm thankful. One of the things that I do, because I do many things, unfortunately, I'm one of those Swiss Army knives, but I'm getting better at it. I'm confessing it to all of you. But one of the things that I do, and it's the most honor right now, is an accountability coach, and I lead out in Dr. Eric Thomas's UOU Mastermind with leaders of whatever genre you can think of, people in different parts of the United States and a couple of other parts of the world. And we're on 6 days a week, and some days twice a day. Yeah, and making sure that people who want to win and succeed together have the tools that they need. So I'm excited about it. And yeah, I'm here to make a contribution with these wonderful women. And I appreciate you, Bridget.
I love it. I love it. So we have a panel of, again, I told you, some powerful experts, like literally have done some amazing things. Again, not just here in the United States where, oh, I was about to say where we're all at, but we're not. L. David Harris is not in the United States. So we have a global panel that have literally had global impact. My name is Bridget Brown Jackson. I am a the CEO and founder of Exponential Edge Adventures. It's a training and learning development firm where I help leaders help themselves by empowering their teams, literally, so they can get productivity, but most of all, they can sustain the high performing people that they have. And so we're having this conversation. This is day number 2. We do have another expert that should be popping in. You all know how technology can sometimes go awry. Well, we got some technology stuff that's going awry on his end, but hopefully we will have David Roberts in here with us too. Again, another amazing leader. So let's get into this conversation. Listen, if you are listening, invite your friends, especially if you have people that are in leadership roles. Listen, leaders will say, some leaders, let me put it like this, not all leaders, but some leaders will say it's lonely at the top. It doesn't have to be, because you can have an impact by having that top five that's around you. So, who's in your circle? I always ask people that. I know these three right here are on my Rolodex. I'm going all the way old school, but they actually in my phone. When I need something, I have high performing leaders surrounded by me. And so, again, if you're out there, you don't have to ever be alone. So, join us and tap in. Don't get all this knowledge for yourself. Invite a friend, invite a colleague, invite another leader that you know that could benefit from this discussion. As we said, today we're going to be talking about fostering collaboration and innovation through trust. Our first point we're going to talk about is building trust for creative teams. So, I want you to understand that there's a psychology about trust. You want to have psychological safety, right? And I don't know about you all, but I know I've been in places that I didn't feel psychologically safe. And
Mhm.
therefore, it affected and impacted not only my genius, but it impacted my productivity. So, we want to unpack that and talk about being risk taking and having the opportunity for teams to be risk taking. So, I'll put it out to the panel. Let's talk about trust and brainstorming ways that trust levels can be impacted. So, what are your thoughts? Anybody can start.
I want to start with an assignment. I'll call it an assignment, ladies, that I had. I was already a full-time entrepreneur for years, and God said that I needed to say yes to an offer to be communication director for a nonprofit organization that had 220 member sites here in Jamaica. And so months later, the pandemic hit. We didn't know there was a pandemic, but then it hit. Being the head of a department of actual creatives, I know that's not what you were talking about when you said creativity, but actual creatives who are now in a situation to have to keep people engaged, keep people together in a constituency of over 100,000 real live people. That's besides those beyond our own constituency. I noticed that I had a team that was broken in a lot of ways.
Mm,
And one of the ways that I sought to, and I say that it was 80% of my work to mend that, was to not be the guy with the suit. And no disrespect to the suits, right? I have my suit, but I didn't behave like the boss in terms of normal everyday. I give you your orders, you follow them, full stop.
mm,
No, where they were, I was. Where I was, they couldn't be. It was just me in the leadership space.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to the work, they never had to wonder, is David with us or is he just about giving commands? A lot of leaders don't like that and may not need to or be able to do that. But in my ecosystem at the time, that was necessary
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't know how to interact with someone who was close to them, even though
mm.
I was the director. So that was
Oh,
number one, building a real bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
oh, I love it. I'm gonna let you all talk, but you just hit a spark. And I call him LDH. Everybody, we call him L. Davis Harris, but drop it down to just those three initials. Go ahead, Janice. You were gonna say something, or Martha, were you gonna chime in?
Yeah, I
Martha,
was
you can
just
go first.
okay. Yeah, so I was going to say that is so key, right? Because a lot of times the leaders are taskmasters. They're not individuals who can have the empathy, have the compassion, and be able to be where your team is. And having trust in you created that atmosphere that they can make it. Having trust had them think outside about it because they weren't in a stressful mode. They weren't in a fear mode. They were in a mode of making sure that they were able to do what they needed to do for their community. And that's key is setting that pace, setting that tone so individuals can have that psychological safety to be innovative. So appreciate that analogy experience.
Love it. Go ahead.
Excellent, excellent.
Janice, we're gonna pull in Dwayne. Dwayne has joined us now. Hold on one
Okay,
second. We're gonna grab
sure.
Dwayne. Again, we apologize to everybody that is listening. Technology stuff happens, but we're getting ready to pull in Dwayne Roberts. We're gonna let him introduce himself, and then we're gonna finish answering that question, Janice. All right. Mr. Dwayne Roberts, come on and introduce yourself to everyone.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I apologize, man. Computer shut down at the last minute, so I had to reboot. But nonetheless, I'm here. I'm excited, guys. Phenomenal team. Thank you, Bridget, for the opportunity. My name is Dwayne Roberts. She's I'm a leadership expert, podcast host, passionate about men. It's my desire to empower men to overcome limiting beliefs and find confidence to walk out their God given purpose through self awareness and building self authenticity leadership style.
Mhm.
Love it. Thank you for introducing yourself, Dwayne. So, right now, we're talking about trust. We were talking about our first talking point, which is psychological safety. So, go ahead, Janice, finish answering that question for us.
I sure will. And I want to highlight something that you said earlier about building a circle. That reminded me of a Bible verse that I posted on my Facebook page a couple weeks ago. It is from Proverbs 13 and verse 20. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. So I like to say, you are who you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with people who are wise, it's easy to build a trusting environment because those folks will never lead you wrong. So I just want to make sure that we highlight the significance of what scripture can often provide us in terms of guidance in our leadership, management, and professional roles.
Mhm.
I love it. Thank you, Janice, for sharing that.
Mhm.
And Dwayne, we know you just came in, but if you want to add something to that conversation before we move to the next topic, or anybody else want to unpack that, instantly I thought of Maslow. I thought about the hierarchy, and everything. We can't do anything if
Mhm.
we don't have psychological safety. After our basic needs, we need to make sure that we are safe. And if we're
Mhm.
not safe, we can't build upon having high self-esteem, being able to move out in our greatest self, which is getting to self-actualization and
Mhm.
beyond. So it's important that we lay a foundation of trust so that our teams are able to be able to come and work productively in a psychologically safe environment. All right, Dwayne, I'm done. Go ahead. Take it away.
No, I think you tapped on something there too. You're right. The Maslow hierarchy of needs.
Mhm.
Working in a recovery field with a lot of people, before they can even find this place for themselves, they have to find this stability for themselves of basic needs: home, food, shelter, job.
Mhm.
And it's our job as leaders to empower them to find those resources and support them along that journey, man. So no, I think you tapped on something that really is important. It's something that sometimes may be overlooked just in the organization because we may not take time to to ask that leader, is everything all right at home?
Hmm.
The kids fed? Or you might overhear something at walking past the water cooler or something of that nature. But as
Mhm.
leaders, we're so busy, we don't dial back and take a little that one step effort to check in
Hmm.
with people and see where they are and see how we can better serve that immediate need so we can get better results as we move along throughout the year.
Can I just say one thing, Bridget, before we move to the next? Um, so you brought up Maslow, and I think about the expanded hierarchy of needs. Really, no matter how you flip it, Dwayne, it makes me know that all humans are more alike than we are different.
Yeah.
All of us. Transcendence, you may call it one thing, I may call it another. Fine. Your need for belonging, you may call it one thing, I may call it another, but we all have the need. And
Mhm.
so when I was building that team that I alluded to earlier, that was my goal. Because when the suit comes in and I come from outside of their familiar environment, rather than to try to verbally answer the question, is he an alien? Is he different? Is he for us? Is he against us? I just demonstrated it. Like I just literally demonstrated it. And for those who don't know, I was in an elected position and from another country.
Mm,
And I also didn't come from the pedigree of people that normally are elected for the position. So that's a lot of like areas to have to overcome in a
Mhm,
short time. And
mhm.
so we're more alike than we are different. And so sometimes we just literally have to demonstrate it more than we can communicate it verbally.
absolutely. Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else want to talk on that? All right. Well, let's get to the next conversation. Uh Synergy. You know, this is one of my favorites because I told y'all Stephen Covey was my everything when I first started my career. You know, I had never heard of things like he said, and definitely didn't read things like he talked. And so he talks about habit number 6, which is synergy. The role of trust is definitely synergistic and it's collaborative. So, what are your takes on making sure that, again, other leaders are able to see that as the benefit that it truly is?
Yeah, I'll go first on that one. What I have seen and what I always advise people to do is surround yourself with wise people, as I mentioned earlier, but also those who complement you. You don't want to surround yourself with people who are going to be yes people because they're essentially not adding to your team. And I know sometimes that feeds folks insecurities to just, they need to have somebody to say yes to everything. But that's really not how you make progress. And that's really not how you build a successful organization. You want people who can disagree, but disagree respectfully. And in the right settings, the right places, the right times. You want everybody to feel comfortable with each other. One of the things that I always say about myself is that maybe all the time I don't generate the greatest ideas, but that's why I'm surrounded by a team. There are going to be some people who are idea people. There are going to be some people who are good at fleshing out those ideas and picking apart what the pros and cons are. And then there are going to be some people who are um, the ones who say, no, that's a bad idea, but we can turn it into a good one by doing X, Y, and Z. So you want to be surrounded by a variety of those types of folks who are strong enough to express their opinions, also thoughtful enough to help others see and understand what it is that they see. So it just takes all kinds to round out a really good team. But there's nothing that beats the concept of each person bringing in their personal strengths to a team, complementing the weaknesses of that team, complementing the weaknesses of the leader, so that you get something that results in a better service, a better product, or a better organization.
I love it. Thank you, Janice. That's amazing.
A
Go ahead.
major blind spot in a team, Sister Janice, is you're my new sister, by the way. Hey.
Oh, thank you. I
Yeah.
always wanted a brother.
Yeah. But one of the blind spots when people are leading or building teams is like, let's call it from an HR perspective. Let's keep it real simple, right? Is we look for certain skill set. And you would say, well, how could that be a blind spot? Like, how could that be a weakness? Well, that's not the blind spot by itself. There are times that people are qualified on paper to lead in certain ways or to add value in certain ways, but we don't take enough stock in who they are, behavior styles, right? And so, whereas I'm a teacher, I see that EDS over there. I'm a teacher, but I'm not Bridget. She is outgoing. She is more friendly than I am. She has a more public face, even though I do a lot of public things. It's really annoying that I do so many things. And I'm an introvert. And so the way that we enter the space in our authenticity matters. So when we align that with the skill set and then build the team based on the needs and not just the skill set needs, then you can have synergy. Because can you imagine you have 17 people on a 19-person team who are all wired the same way, even though you have different skill sets. You see? So we have to balance skill set and behavior style and plug in these pieces appropriately so that the team can actually be functional and synergistic.
That is great. I was getting ready to go there. I was going to say, what one of the things that a couple of us on here do is look at that, the dynamics of the team and how those strengths and weaknesses are able to complement each other and
Mm.
understanding everybody's not alike. And it's okay because what you just described, LDH, is what, being an educator, literally we see that a lot sometimes in schools. I had a client that it was a nonprofit, and the majority of their people were very introverted, and it's what we call the grounds crew. If anybody's familiar with the disc assessment, it's the S on the disc assessment, so they're very stabilizing. So they want to be low key. Well, there was a whole team of low key people, but they were having conflict, and because it's nonprofit, there were some funding issues and things like that. And so the team unraveled just a little bit because of the fact that, again, they needed to make sure that they dealt with conflict in a healthy way, which we're going to be talking about that on series number 2. But that's why we're talking about trust right now, because if you don't build that foundation of trust, you can't build the other stuff. And I know I said I was going to moderate and just kind of be quiet. So come on, throw something in there, throw some nuggets in there, Martha or Dwayne.
I think LD hit it on the head with how he explained the different personalities and what we bring to the team environment. I was thinking about this morning, and Bridget, to LD's point, you did that right here for us today. I believe leaders simply inspire shared vision, collaboratively. You know what I mean? While we all have our own mission and drive, the truth is we're here to support you, and you've opened up or enabled us to step out and support at the measure in which we support. We bring our gifts and talents to the teamwork show today. But more importantly, this is what I really like, and it's that you challenge. I'm gonna say me. You challenge me. And so I appreciate that. It helps me step out of what's comfortable. You know what I mean? And so great leaders do great things by synergizing teams, man. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Um, some excellent nuggets. What I would like to say is synergy is your energy, right? How you show up is how you are respected. And a lot of leaders, they show up in the suit and not in the authenticity. So, as leaders, it's key for us to have that energy, to take that time to show up, knowing that you are here to make an impact in terms of leadership, in terms of just being authentic with yourself, so that others can, emanate that. Because we have what we call those mirror neurons, and those mirror neurons is actually seeing what you are doing in order to execute going forward. So that's what. This is great nuggets. Thank you.
I want to add a comment that we had, and anybody can address this. We talked
Mhm.
about this a little bit yesterday, but I definitely want to add this right here. So Michael Harvey is listening through Facebook, and he said, "What if you have the leadership skills and breadth of emotional intelligence?" We talked about that a lot yesterday. We unpacked that, but again, come on, let's address it for the people who maybe missed yesterday. How vital is having that emotional intelligence as a leader? Thank you, Michael, so much for that question.
My good friend, Dr. Harvey. Now, I have a different take, I think, than a lot of people do. I don't believe that we have leadership skills when we have a lack of emotional intelligence. Now, I know that that seems like an exclusive way of saying it. Like, of course, Dave, if you put it on a paper, you write it on a whiteboard, does this person have this? Does this person have that? And then you say yes, so David's statement is inaccurate. But really, I think we have lowered the bar to the degree that we accept some behaviors as
Mm,
skills,
that are.
and then we will slide it in and call it leadership.
Mm.
Real leaders are emotionally intelligent. Now I qualified it, real leaders. And so emotional intelligence is key to leadership because we cannot function out of fear as leaders, out of immaturity to say, well, Dr. Harvey is so much more gifted, so much more talented, so much more influential. So I need to cut his feet off and then tell him to run. Did you get that? Like
Mhm.
some broken, inept leaders will do things to sabotage great team members
Mm.
because of the lack of emotional intelligence. Is that really leadership? You see where I'm going with that?
Right.
Let me just stop because I'll end up preaching that one.
Listen,
Yeah,
we
I
can go there
completely,
and preach it. Go ahead, Janice. We can go ahead and preach
yeah,
that because that's important for us to realize. A title is not the same thing as leadership. Go ahead,
right,
Janice.
right. And you're not alone in that opinion. So just want to let you know that. I want to take that question though in a little bit of a different direction. Do we think that we can teach people emotional intelligence? Is that something that folks can be trained to acquire?
Yes.
Oh, I was gonna say, is that a question? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
yeah,
question. It's a
yeah,
question.
I believe that. I believe it. 'Cause a lot of us operate on what we learned and what we've experienced. And sometimes we're not aware that our emotions are being impacted on how we communicate. So it's always good to have that self awareness, that social awareness, so that you can communicate, understanding the emotions that others feel and how you are showing up. And I would say, from my perspective, I didn't really realize and understand the impact of my emotions and how I showed up as a leader. But then when I was got into neural leadership, it became very clear that I needed to understand how I show up. And a lot of times we forget about the nonverbal. And the nonverbal is key to the verbal, right? So I believe that it is something that needs to be communicated and shared through various, venues in your whole leadership role. That's what I
Yeah, I think well, leaders are coaches. Let's just be real. And as coaches, as coaches, we communicating to individuals or teaching individuals behavior through communication, through questioning. Leadership isn't telling people what to do, but it's inquiring. It's understanding what they know and how they see their perspective, their worldview, and then we challenge that. And that's where that growth for emotional intelligence plays out because they begin to reflect. More
Mhm.
importantly, leadership is modeling. We as leaders model the expectations we expect our followers to. And when I mean model, I mean we modeling our values. We're
Mhm.
modeling the corporate values. We have some standards about ourselves, and when we implement those, man, the emotional intelligence kick in because what begins to happen, they say things like, well, shucks, Bridget does, she the CEO and she's I saw her out there picking up the trash. Here's a quick story. While on active duty, right? We used to have to do police call every morning in the AM. What police call meant was we had to pick up the trash around the buildings, around the parking lot, and things of that nature. And of course, we have hierarchy, right? The first sergeant is the highest enlisted person in the organization. And then we have the company commander and, of course, the lieutenants, right? Listen, when I tell you everybody was picking up trash, I'm talking about the leaders themselves, the commanders, the XOs, the platoon leaders, the first sergeants, the platoon sergeants. And what this embedded was when people walk past trash, You didn't have to go tell the young soldier to go pick it up. He picked it up. Why? Because he modeled what he had saw. The emotional intelligence portion of him said, "Oh, I can't leave this trash on the ground. I want to be a difference maker." And this is how we lead within our organizations, by being the difference makers. Leaders are coaches. Good stuff.
Love it. Anybody else? This is good. So thank you again, Dr. Harvey, for that question. Uh,
Yeah.
look, I want LDH to expound. So we have somebody when we ask that question about leaders in emotional intelligence. We have someone that says yes and no. All right. So LDH, you responded in the chat. Unless people are on your chat, they can't see the chat. So
Yeah.
you responded, no such thing as yes and no.
Yeah. No
So
such
explain
thing.
that.
Yeah, no such thing. And really, I happen to know the young brother who said it. And people with the behavior style that Alex has, I call him my big son, would tend to do that. Would tend to say, "Okay, I can see light in opposing ends of an argument. So let's try to bring it together in the middle, if it's a sensible one, and see if they can agree." But in this case, either see, there are things that are taught and caught. So we don't have to vacillate and say, "No, we can't." Oh, but yes, we can. Yes and no. No, 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 no. Those are on two opposite ends of the spectrum, yes and no. But some things are taught, some things are caught, and it just really depends on the person how much needs to be taught, how much needs to be caught. And to be caught means to observe. So for instance, there are persons we would call flight attendant. These are the gregarious people, the life of the party, the people who can really come into a room and experience it. They can catch a lot more than a person with my behavior style would. I learn many times by observing, yes, but sometimes I need you, Bridget, to teach me certain things. And then I can ask you the questions. And then I can see, does it measure up to the logic that's in my mind? And then so it just really depends. At varying degrees, it's taught and it's caught. It's not yes and no. Now, some are just better at having it than others naturally, but it's something that definitely can be taught, whether it's trained in or people observe. Either way, they didn't have it before.
Hmm.
So I do
I,
want
I
to
like
address that, and then
I
I want
see.
you to pick that up, Janice. We
Yeah,
have Simone that is listening too as well. Says
right.
doesn't think it can be taught. So go ahead
Yeah, and
and
that was exactly what I wanted to respond to. To learn something by observation, you have to be inclined to learn something by observation. I think you don't pay attention. Some folks are so not aware that they're not observing what's happening in their environment. So I think we have to be honest about that. One of the things that we talked about yesterday was confronting reality.
Hmm.
And I think for the organizational leader, manager, person with a title, if that person does not possess the degree of an emotional intelligence needed to truly lead that organization, that person has to confront the reality that he or she doesn't possess it and has to actively go out and get it. They have to seek that and earnestly absorb what is being taught in whatever class or coaching session or whatever it is that they went to.
Hmm.
Um, as you were talking about organizational values, it reminded me of someone that I used to know very well, who was the leader of an organization. If you looked at the values and the mission of the organization, all appeared to be very noble and on point, but the person modeled absolutely none of those behaviors if you observe closely. So there are some nuances there that may have led to the yes and no answer that we got, as well as the person who said, I don't think it can be taught at all. I like to say that nothing is impossible, but that person has to make up his or her mind that they really want to do something differently. And at that point, they can be taught and they can observe.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Yeah,
I
that's real
agree.
good, Janice. And you mentioned that, and this came to mind when I came off of active duty. I went right into ministry, right? And in the church, I was, was in position to lead, right? But I had this one-dimensional outlook on leadership, and it was do what I say and do it now. We ask we ask questions later, right? This was the old military side of me,
Yeah.
and I quickly realized that you can really push some people away because of your lack of emotional intelligence. I was going to call it ignorance, but your lack
Yeah,
of
that
emotion,
that too.
right? Your lack of emotional intelligence. And so, to your point, I had to be intentional to grow myself. I literally went back to school. Let me figure out how I can be more effective in as a leader. And so, yeah, to your point, I think it is an intentional act upon that leader to grow themselves and grow in emotional intelligence. Show some empathy, learn, stand in some other people's shoes, see things from a different perspective. Don't be so one dimensional.
You actually brought up a good point, Dwayne, because let's call it a volunteer ministerial environment. Let's just call it that. I just made that up, right? The expectation is different. The expectation in a healthy one of those is not hierarchical, even though some systems treat it as such. Your expectation is that the leader is a servant first, and the servant leader doesn't give commands. The servant leader builds buy in, builds community.
Mhm.
And even then, when the servant leader speaks or models, then those who are a part of the community are delighted to what? Either follow or join hands. But in a necessary hierarchical structure like the armed forces anywhere around the world, it's orders and immediate action first. Why? Because of what is at stake. So if we're building it into the person who is coming in for basic training that you follow orders now, it's because there are missions where now is the difference between a lot of people living or a lot of people dying. And so we have to understand in our organizational structures really what the end goal is, and then the right type of leadership style would be put in place.
I love it. This is some really, really great stuff. So again, we're happy that the people are commenting and joining in the collaboration. So we're getting ready to go move past into the second half of this. Let's move on. Again, unless anybody else have anything else they want to unpack with that.
Okay.
I guess I would like to add this going back to the emotional intelligence piece because I do teach that to my clients. I do go into teams and I work with that and I do teach it because some people aren't even aware. And
Mhm.
I'll put it like this: I didn't learn this until the latter part of my leadership. Like literally, it really truly made a difference. I'm like, wait a minute, why wasn't I trained and taught this in school? Mind you, I was in my third set of educational advancements, right? And had not been taught this. And so, yes, I do believe that it can be taught, but it is, as Jenna said, it's up to that individual to make sure that we're utilizing it. I have this conversation with a client right now over and over again. She's a business owner, and sometimes she's surprised by other people's actions. And I'm like, if they're not emotionally sound, if they don't have that emotional intelligence that you have, you're expecting something from them that they cannot do because, again, you're not on a level plane. And so I just want to add that piece in there and then we're going to move on. Let's see what yes, okay. LDH is in the chat. But yes, it is. It's so very important. It's crucial. I know I've sharpened mine. Where I started 4 years ago versus where I am now in my emotional intelligence is totally different,
Mhm.
and I'm constantly sharpening and constantly developing because my goal is to be the best leader that God has called me to be because it's not even about me. This is about his kingdom work. Okay, I'm not going to start preaching. All right, let's move on to the next segment. Let's talk about trust and risk taking. Trust and risk taking. So, Maxwell talks about the law of buy in. Now, I've had that. in all of my organizations. Literally, I thought because, and this was in my infancy when I first became a leader, I was like, because I said it, they're going to do it. Not. Come on, somebody, let's talk about that. How does trust influence team members' willingness to take calculated risk?
There are a lot of things. I'll start off with that one, and then I'll surrender the floor. I want to point out a couple of examples right quick. One was something that happened, I think I referenced yesterday, about being an organization where people were just trying to stay under the radar. I talked to another person who worked in that organization one day, and they said that their current supervisor at the time of the annual evaluation always says, you should take more risk. And he says, I just can't do it because I was conditioned for so long to keep my head under the radar that I just learned never to take a risk with anything. So he's going to have to be gradually retrained and unlearn things that he was conditioned to do that were negative behaviors, quite frankly, and didn't benefit the organization. So that's the first thing to say about that. Second thing I want to point out was that I once found myself in charge of a group of people who kind of weren't ready to take risks. And I had to take a step back because, I come in with this type of mindset where, hey, let's take some calculated risks. Let's use your own judgment. Let's think for yourself. And some of the people in that environment simply were not ready to do that. So as an organizational leader, I had to take a step back and kind of meet them where they were so that we could eventually get them to the point where they were prepared themselves to be able to take those types of risks.
I just want to say not every leader not every leader is a risk taker. Now, every leader must lead, but there are times that the people who are wired not to take risks would understand from an emotionally intelligent space and an organizationally intelligent space that maybe I need someone close to me. I am the leader, we'll call it, if it's a C-suite situation, I may be the CEO, but I may not have the expected behavior style of CEOs. But I may be so intelligent to say, I need someone, an executive vice president, a COO, somebody who can be the other me, who is a risk taker because it's necessary. But it's not necessary that I, as a leader, would take the risk. Now, somebody could say, but Dave, that's a risk in and of itself, because now you put another you in, and then the constituency could think that you're inept, or the boards, or whoever you answer to. And I'm like, okay, well, technically that's true, so I'll give you that. But really and truly, not every leader has to be a risk taker, but every leader must lead.
Let me ask you this, LD, because I like that what you point out. Every leader doesn't have to take the risk, right? But every leader needs to lead. And my thought process behind that is, while I may not be a risk taker, I can be an action taker. I have to take action on what's important. How does I got to ask myself the hard questions. If I don't take action, what's the possibilities we don't meet the goal, the quarter, or the requirements? And if I do take this action, not a risk, but an actionable step. I don't think an actionable step is a risk step. We just want to move. We want to get some momentum into that area. And what I believe what happens is you create that buy-in. You create that buy-in because now others are saying, you know what, we're taking action. We're picking up momentum. And now we move towards accomplishing the goal without so much of a risk being taken.
Yeah, action is necessary. I'll just keep it simple like that. Like, action is necessary, and no matter the wiring, and you know that I'm always going to keep bringing this up, Rejack, like, it's all, in terms of our behavior style. But it doesn't matter what our behavior styles are.
Yes.
We have to act. It's just a matter of in what ways. So, yeah, to your point, yes, we have to all be action takers if we're leaders. Otherwise, we're not leading. Like, let's just keep that 100. Like, keep it a buck. We are not leading if we're not acting.
So I saw the comment from Harvey, Michael Harvey, I believe was his name. Yeah, awareness of the organizational, institutional culture, and relationship management are necessary in accomplishing the organization goal is true. And a lot of times, us as leaders have to realize how we achieve the organizational goals and achieve our values. How do we show up so that we are taking the risk, we're being role models for our team and meet the organizational values. And that's something that a lot of times leaders aren't trained on. It's intuitive, right? And being intuitive, we have to be able to look at how do we make the difference and make the combination of meeting the organizational goal, your values, and showing people how to take risks. And a lot of times that means giving them something small and say, reward them, right? Because we all like rewards. Oh, you did a great time. Why don't we do this? Oh, you did a great job. So you're teaching them the risk taking without them even know it's happening. You're meeting the organizational goals and you're living in your values.
Mm, that's good, Martha. I love it. Janice, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think I've said.
Okay. 'Cause I
I
thought
think
you
I
were
said
looking.
earlier.
I
Although I
thought you
will
were looking
say,
to say something.
no. We're good. Thank you.
You know, I always got something to say, right?
Go ahead.
All right. So, whereas, okay, let me put it this way. We have to understand, to Dr. Harvey's point, that most of the time the organization or institution is not ours. Most of the time. Now, there are leaders that may be listening or may listen later where it is theirs, if you want to say in air quotes. But
Mhm.
more often than not, it's not. And so when I come into, I'll just give you an example. Like I said, you already know that I lead out in Dr. Eric Thomas's UOU mastermind. Did you note how I said that? Dr. Thomas's
Yes.
mastermind.
Right,
Yes.
And so whatever I'm bringing to the table must be in alignment with his vision.
Yes.
right,
And I must not allow my giftedness or my perception of giftedness. I must not allow my skills. I must not allow my vision based on some former experience in some other organization or me as a company owner to leak into that structure. Why not? Because it's not my structure.
right, right,
And it seems like a foregone conclusion, but that is often the challenge with the leaders. We think because Janice is the principal of Janice Allen Jackson and Associates LLC, that when she comes into another company or organization for a period of time, that she is going to put forward her vision. And it's like, pause, no, but that's inside of her company structure. It sounds simple, but that is at the base of a lot of unnecessary war in organizations and companies.
Yeah.
mhm,
And actually, what you just said, LDH, goes to a client. Well, they're a prospect right now. They're going to be assumed to be client. Very lucrative business, absolutely very lucrative. But her leadership team, people on an executive leadership team, does not have the same vision as she has. And we talked about that. I shared with her. She says, but they're good people. I got it. I told her, I said, I have led multi-million dollar organizations, but every time I have taken a role, my goal is the goal and the vision of the organization that employs me. It is not Bridget's. And I have some great ideas. As you said, we have our own behavior preferences, right? I'm a flight attendant. So I am naturally vision oriented. I am naturally gregarious. I'm naturally optimistic. I have that natural piece, but I have to tone Bridget to fit in with the mission and everything. And that goes back. We've been talking about leaders being able to build trust within the team, but we can reverse engineer that and talk about, but what about when we need to be the ones working on our own selves so that the organization can trust us.
Mhm.
um, and so every place I've been at, my mouth, when it opens, I open and I speak as whoever the organizer, leader, CEO, board, whatever of that entity. That's what we do. And so when we do that, we can really be able to get some things done. So let's just end on that piece. Let's wrap this piece up talking about that more. Anybody else have anything else to add to that? And then we're going to give all of our panelists time to talk a little bit more about what you're doing and what you got going on in your leadership world.
I think it's been a great conversation, and I appreciate all of the participation, not only from each one of us, but the engagement with our
Yes,
audience. I really
yes,
appreciate
great.
that.
Great
Thank
questions. Dr. Harvey, I know you're LDH's friend, but can you be my friend? Look, can your genius connect with my genius? You know, I told you I'm gregarious, I'm outgoing. I'm like, come on, you're welcome to come on to the series too as well. So we're gonna talk about that. But yeah, LDH, you were looking like you wanted to add something.
No, I'm just laughing because because
There
because
we
uh
go.
because you called out to Dr. Harvey. But
I,
yeah,
Dr. Arby, I'm a flight attendant, so everybody is my friend. Everybody I meet, I never meet a stranger. The key
yeah.
stands smiling. I know that's right. But very, very important. And having these conversations help people because sometimes people are sitting in a silo somewhere thinking they're alone. So for a minute, I want to go to church leadership, for instance.
Let's go. Please, let's
And I
go in
can't
there.
remember the name of the pastor right now, but he committed suicide. That hurt me. And he has a mega church. Anybody know who I'm talking about?
you.
I want to say it was last year, maybe 2 years ago. An extremely big mega church committed suicide because people sometimes are in on an island. And I think I said this yesterday, no man is an island. I
Mhm.
don't care how powerful you are, how much influence you have, we all can be attacked. And the whole goal of doing this was literally so we understand that we can come together with our collective genius. We can come together with our collective energy so that no leader is left behind. That's my slogan. So, y'all know I came from the educational world. No
Hmm.
child left behind. I'm like, no, no leader left behind.
Are you talking
Because,
about Jared Wilson?
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
Harvest Christian Fellowship Center.
yes, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, it hurt me to my heart. Like, we need to be able to say when we're not okay. That goes back to that emotional intelligence, that we have that safety, that we understand that psychological safety we were talking about earlier. Who's our net? And so for people that are listening, if you don't have anybody you can talk to, literally, you have us. And
Yeah.
we do what we do. We, most of us, coach and we consult, so we do have a privacy piece. Literally, reach out. Do not ever be a person on your own island thinking that you're by yourself, because you're not. And the reason why I want to bring up the piece about the ministry piece is because I'm a minister. And being a minister, one of the things that it do is it is our due diligence. Everything that we're doing it for the kingdom of God. And as
Mhm.
we're doing that, we again got to make sure that we have a circle of influence, a circle of control that is wrapped around us that can help us get to the places that God wants us to have. I'm gonna be quiet because
This
y'all know I love to talk.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
this one is critical in a lot of ways, but I'll speak just from the organizational perspective. I come from a fellowship that is highly organized, literally around the world. When I say organized, I'm talking about the structure. Tons of churches, schools, health facilities, and keep going. But sometimes the minister, we're talking about the persons who are responsible to the flock and for the flock. If they're employed by a large organization, sometimes in their pain, they feel like, and unfortunately, it's founded sometimes, that if they show their weakness, they show their pain, then the organization will see that as a weakness,
Mhm.
as somehow a breach,
Yeah.
and then bye bye career, bye bye ministry. I'm not saying that happens all the time, but there are a lot of areas within certain of the structure where that is what the some leaders are putting forward. And so the minister is fearful to be human.
Mhm.
If I'm human, there are going to be repercussions. But the minister doesn't often recognize until sometimes it's too late that it's going to leak out of who I am at some point. So it's better to push pause, take that calculated risk, be human, and say, listen, this is what I need because I'm broken, right? I'm broken around. I'm broken. And I need the help of those that say that we're in this ministry together.
Mhm.
Love it. Anybody else?
That is an excellent point. City managers often are in sort of the same position as ministers are because we're organizational leaders, and there are things that you may be frustrated about, that you would wind up saying something bad about your elected officials, your bosses, and you got to be real careful about who you say that to. So that's why we tend to bottle things up. If you're frustrated about what one department director did, you can't vent to the other department director about it. I mean, there's just so many limitations you feel about what you can say and what you can say to whom, that people wind up keeping a lot inside, and it does just blow up. The thing about demonstrating weakness, yeah, as a leader, it's like, well, I'm in charge of 2,000 people or 3,000 or 5,000, whatever. I'm not supposed to show any weakness. I have also heard people in the military say that. And I know you guys, both of you, I think, indicated that you had done some military service. I've understood that there are penalties in the service for having gone to psych services. I mean, I had an employee ask me one day, I said, hey, you need to go to the EAP program. And he goes, is this going to show up on my record? That's the first thing that people think about. So there have been consequences for having sought help. But you're right, there are people like ourselves, anybody on this call, who may be available and be a good resource and a confidential resource, where people really can talk to somebody outside the organization who understands and who won't penalize or look down on them for having said anything about that.
I love it. Thank you, Janice LDH, for wrapping it up. So let's go around. We're going to start with Martha. Martha, please tell the people a little bit more about you and how they can contact you.
Sure. So I am very passionate about women leaders, especially in the STEM space. And for those that know what that means, is science, technology, engineering, and math. And today, we only have 5% African American women in leadership. We have a desire based on studies to be at 50%. So a lot of times what happens is we don't know because we don't have the mentorship, we don't have the guidance. So I have a program called Rise Up, and is basically for women, especially targeting women of color, so that they can learn various ways and observe ways of how they can be leaders. In addition to that, and I'm going to hurry up because there's others behind me, is that I have been asked to collaborate with Dr. Perrin Samani. She's out of London and also lives in India. And we have just collaborated on a book that will be released in November, Leaderships Rising Beyond Limits, Leading Today for Tomorrow's World. So look for that to come out. And I'm on empoweringminds.com. You can find out more about me.
Thank you, Martha. All right, Mr. Dwayne Roberts, all the way from Colorado.
No doubt. This was phenomenal, Bridget. Team, man, great insight. Um, just hope to make a great impact, touch the lives of people. So a little bit more about me. I said I'm a podcast host, man. I host a podcast called Leaders Shift. It's a male empowerment podcast to help men get out of what we call our comfort zone, overcome some limiting beliefs, and find the courage to follow and chase their purpose, helping men to develop the leader within, becoming the best version of you. I'm passionate about men. I'm passionate about leadership. I'm a speaker and coach. So that's who I am. That's how I serve. I do a lot of local work here for many nonprofits, working with formerly incarcerated men. But I'm a people. I'm a peoply people. That's what one of my clients said to me one time. So yeah, that's who I am. Thank you.
I love it. I will have to steal that one. I'm a peoply people. I love it. LDH.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a Swiss Army knife. I won't go through the different blades because there's just too many. But I do share some things with our brother Dwayne. I'm a podcaster as well. Probably the most widespread current one is on 200 radio stations and 30 platforms online as well around the world, and I'm excited about that. What I do on a day-to-day basis, and by the way, that's a Christian living podcast. But what I do on a daily basis, as I mentioned to you before, is I am a coach within the ecosystem of Dr. Eric Thomas and his UOU mastermind. And I also coach in the space of leadership. I'm actually going to put that in the chat right there. So if you want to develop and need to develop healthy teams, I want you to reach out to me the oldish school way, LDH at ldavidharris.com. And we can get those teams really healthy and build them out so that the organization and companies will thrive and hit the bottom line big time.
I love it. Thank you, LDH. Come on, Janice Allen Jackson, my cousin. That's not my real cousin, but my business cousin all the way in Georgia.
That's right. I am in Augusta, Georgia. I am the host of a podcast as well, the Local Matters Podcast of Georgia. I started that so that people can get a better understanding of local and state government issues and how they impact the quality of life. So please subscribe to the Local Matters Podcast of Georgia on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. I also speak as well on women's leadership issues, civic engagement issues, and just the future of government and where we're headed. So please connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I'm trying to build my network as we all are. So please don't hesitate to send me a connection request on LinkedIn. I love to get to know you as well.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you so much. Listen, I don't know. I can come behind all that great power. But hey, everybody, my name is Bridget Brown Jackson. I am the founder of Exponential Edge Adventures. I teach women leaders. I work with women leaders, coach, consulting, and everything. As LGH has said too, and as well as Dwayne Roberts, I am an extreme execution coach certified under none other than the guru himself, Dr. Eric Thomas. My firm really loves making learning fun. And so I'm also actually a podcast host as well. My podcast is called Powerful, and I am the author of the book Powerful. Everybody can catch me at bridgetbrownjackson.com. Y'all check out how Bridget is spelled. Wait a minute, there it is, right there. How it's spelled, because it is spelled uniquely, because I am unique. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. We went over a few minutes, so we ask you to please forgive us, but we'll be back tomorrow. We're going to be back tomorrow for day number 3 as we close out our conversation about trust. We are really excited to be with you. Again, yesterday we talked about trust. Today we're talking about trust. And tomorrow we close out on trust. Please join us again. We're on LinkedIn Live, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, but as well, you are seeing other people are able to see it because we're streaming on multiple other platforms too as well. If you missed it, DM us. Just say replay. We love the replay squad as well. Anybody else have anything else as we sign off?
I just want to say I really like Bree Jack.
You really trust me. That's what you
Yeah.
started off with at the beginning.
Well,
You
now
trust
I'm adding something. I'm adding a layer, and I just want to say thank you. Honestly, it was a quality time and a pleasure to interact with Martha and Janice and Dwayne, and of course you, Sister Bree Jack. That's what we call her.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Dr. Harvey, we appreciate you staying with us to the end too as well. He said earlier, collaboration is key. The synergy is great among your team. This team is really, really great. So he has to sign out because he was invited by none other than LDH himself. So thank you, Dr. Harvey, for joining with us. For all those other people, we see you, we see you, we see you. We thank you, Simone, for your questions. We thank you, Alexandre, for joining us. There were some other people on earlier, none other than Coach T, Tyrell, the mastermind, Mohammed. Yes, he's another one of our friends and everything. So we see people are watching on all the different things. Thank you so much. Again, we're a few minutes over, so we're going to get out of here because y'all know I'm a flight attendant. I love to talk. We're going to land this plane right now and we're going to be out. Please join us again tomorrow. We're going to do like the Brady Bunch. Bye. In all of our 5